Someone asks how you are. Before you've even checked in with yourself, the words have already left your mouth. I'm fine. You hear yourself say it like it belongs to someone else. Maybe you're carrying something heavy. Maybe you haven't slept properly in weeks. Maybe you're one small comment away from cracking open in the middle of a Tesco. And the response was fine. It's the most frequently told lie in modern life. And the people who tell it most aren't liars. They're survivors of something nobody around them ever saw. 3 things in this video. The exact neuroscience of why your brain reaches for fine before you've even felt the feeling underneath it. The childhood architecture that built this response. And the honest split between 2 completely different reasons people say I'm fine that look identical from outside. Same words. Opposite psychology. First, the most important reframe of this entire video. Because most chronic fine-sayers carry quiet shame about it, and the shame is built on a misunderstanding. I'm fine isn't a lie. It's a password. The one your nervous system trained itself to say at the door. So the danger on the other side of vulnerability would walk past without noticing you. And here's what's actually happening in your body when you say it. Stanford psychologist James Gross built the foundational research on this across the 1990s and 2000s. He calls it expressive suppression. Expressive suppression is the conscious or unconscious act of hiding what you're feeling while continuing to feel it. The performance changes. The emotion doesn't go anywhere. Gross's research found something brutal. People who chronically suppress don't actually feel less. They feel exactly as much as everyone else. They just become specialists in not letting it show, which means I'm fine isn't strength, it's surface area. A very thin, very practiced layer painted over a nervous system that's still feeling everything underneath. Second, the architecture that built this response in the first place, because nobody is born hiding their feelings from people they love. Attachment researchers Bowlby and Ainsworth identified a specific pattern that produces this exact adult behavior. They called it anxious avoidant attachment. It forms when a child grows up around adults who were overwhelmed, unpredictable, or simply too tired to meet vulnerability with comfort, cried out distress that no one came to. That child learns a survival rule. My feelings cause trouble. If I show what I'm carrying, it either gets ignored, dismissed, or it overwhelms the people I depend on. So the child's brain makes a subconscious executive decision. It decides to become low maintenance. It learns to be the easy one, the fine one, the one who never asks for anything. Hit subscribe if any of this is hitting closer than you expected. The next layer is the one most people never realize was happening to their own body. Because the architecture isn't just emotional, it's physiological. Suppression doesn't just live in your head, it lives in your body, and your body keeps the receipts. Neuroendocrinologist Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University named it allostatic load, the cumulative wear and tear on the body and mind caused by chronic suppression of stress responses. When you suppress an emotion, the feeling itself doesn't vanish. Your cortisol still rises, your heart still races. Your nervous system still registers the event. The only thing that stops is the expression. Multiply that by 20 years of saying fine. What you're describing isn't an emotional pattern anymore. It's a slow physiological accumulation that shows up as fatigue, irritability, inexplicable numbness, and a body that won't quite let you rest. You're not tired from what you did today. You're tired from everything you didn't let yourself feel today and yesterday and most of last decade. And here's the paradox: most chronic fine-sayers live inside without ever naming it, because you often become the most beloved person in your social circle and somehow also the most invisible. Because you appear strong and stable, others naturally bring their own chaos to you. You become the emotional caretaker, the friend who listens but never shares, the partner who handles every crisis but never sheds a tear. You become a psychological sponge. And a sponge can only hold so much before it begins to leak in places no one is watching. The tragedy of the fine trap is that it creates the exact loneliness it was trying to prevent. You're surrounded by people who love you, but they're loving the mask. The person underneath has been alone for years. Here's the part nobody names. Because chronic suppression doesn't just hide your pain from others. Eventually, it starts hiding your pain from you. You stop knowing what you're feeling. You can't answer the question, "How are you?" Honestly, because the suppression happened so far upstream that the feeling never made it into conscious awareness. The fine came out automatically because by the time the question was asked, the feeling had already been intercepted, sorted, filed away, and made silent. You weren't lying. You genuinely didn't know. A quiet observation before we get to the split. Not an attack. Many chronic fine-sayers grew up where vulnerability was met with rejection and built a brilliant adaptive shield to survive it. The shield worked. It kept you safe in rooms that genuinely weren't safe. But the shield doesn't know how to put itself down. 20 years later, you're holding it up in rooms that never had any threat in them. People who would catch you if you fell. And you've been quietly performing okay around them for so long they don't know there's anything to catch. Third, and here's the honest split. Because two completely different people say "I'm fine" constantly. They look identical. They're not. The first type is protective fine. You're consciously managing, you know you're not okay, but right now isn't the moment. You'll feel it later when you have privacy and space. The suppression is a choice. The feeling stays accessible. The second type is invisible fine. The word comes out before you've checked in with yourself. By the time anyone asks, the feeling has already been intercepted. You're not hiding it from them. You're not even able to find it yourself. Same words. Opposite psychology. The test is simple. After you say "I'm fine," can you finish the sentence, "but actually I'm feeling"? If you can answer that, even quietly to yourself, you're protective fine. The feeling is still accessible. You just chose this wasn't the moment. If you can't answer, if the feeling itself feels miles away, locked behind glass, that's invisible fine. The suppression happened before consciousness caught up. And that's the version that quietly accumulates the cost over years. Almost everyone watching this is the second type more often than they want to admit. That's not a moral failure. That's a nervous system running ancient survival software in rooms that no longer have the dangers it was built for. There's a line worth carrying with you after this video ends. The hardest thing for many of us isn't saying "help me." It's saying the smaller, gentler, more vulnerable thing. The actual truth that lives behind the smile. Before you go, here's one thing to try in the next 24 hours. Not a giant vulnerability. Researchers who study expressive suppression found that the system doesn't shift through dramatic confessions. It shifts through tiny corrections. They call it micro-vulnerability. Next time someone asks how you are instead of "I'm fine," try stepping just 5% off the script. Try, "It's been a heavy week, but I'm managing." Or, "A bit overwhelmed today, but I appreciate you asking." Not the whole truth. Just 5% of it. Your nervous system learns from data. Every 5% honesty that doesn't end in rejection is a data point that teaches it the world isn't the room you grew up in. Come back and tell me in the comments what shifted. And if someone in your life always says they're fine and you can feel they're not, don't push. Don't demand. Just say one quiet sentence and leave it open. "I know you handle everything. You don't have to be fine around me. I'm here whenever you're not." That single sentence is sometimes the first time in 20 years someone has actively given them permission to lower the shield. They might not lower it today, but you've put a door where there used to be only a wall. If you've spent years quietly carrying things nobody around you knew you were carrying, You're not weak for breaking. You're a nervous system that built a brilliant fortress in a moment when you genuinely needed one. That fortress kept you safe. It worked. And you're allowed to begin gently to step outside it, into rooms that were never going to hurt you in the first place. If any of this hit subscribe and like. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people who need to hear it. Tell me in the comments, when you say I'm fine, can you usually finish the sentence, but actually I'm feeling, or does that feeling live somewhere behind glass? Honest answer.